Jay here, Stretford, Paddock, and it's time for a big debate and what two better people to join me, or which two better people to join me than Mr. Joe Smith. How are we doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Yeah, you're all right?
Yeah.
You ready for this?
Ready.
Yeah, because in the other corner, we've got Stephen Howson.
This is not going to be a long debate.
We're talking about, is it time to get behind Harry Maguire? Now, before you all start shouting, no, it's not, he's not good enough, it costs 30 million quid and all that stuff, I understand that argument, but it does seem like we're getting a little bit OTT, especially with all the England nonsense, which I couldn't care less about. So we thought we'd have this discussion. Steve, you've already made your feelings on Harry Maguire clear. You don't think he's good enough, his performances haven't been good enough, and he costs too much. I get all that, but...
And he doesn't take accountability for his performances or his mistakes.
Well, I'm going to get to that as well in a minute. The reason we're asking this, though, it does seem like the whole nation now is united against him, and you just feel like, are we getting a bit carried away?
No, there's two reasons for this.
Okay.
The first reason is primarily because he doesn't take accountability for his mistakes.
Yeah.
He seems to want to throw others under the bus. Like, I tweeted last night as a joke, oh, who's to blame for the absolute cock-up that there was with him giving the penalty away after he gave the ball away and then just booted someone. The amount of people that replied saying, De Gea's to blame.
Yeah.
That's because of him. That's because of him. All right, maybe not necessarily, we spoke about this last week, but maybe it's not because of him, but he's certainly not come out and rubbish those thoughts that was in the paper last week, where it's like De Gea doesn't come off his line. Now, that's out there as a meme. Whether it's correct, whether it's from his mouth or whatever, that De Gea's at fault for him being shit is now a meme.
Yeah.
Right or wrong.
Okay.
So there's this feeling that he doesn't take accountability for his mistakes. There's some interviews where... reading between the lines of what he's got to say, because no player's ever going to come out and go, I'll tell you what, that attack are fucking garbage. Forget the fact that we conceded 4. They're shit. But there's some instances of where he seems to sort of only want to talk about that rather than anything else. His attitude of, well, I keep getting picked, so I can't be that bad. Again, without going over all ground that we covered last week, it just seems to be a lack of accountability of his mistakes. He makes the same mistakes often. He doesn't, we know he doesn't scan. We know he doesn't have the spatial awareness of what's going on around him. We know that he dives into things. I mean, against Arsenal, sort of jokingly said to whoever I was watching the game, I can't remember who I was watching the game with now, he's been on the pitch 30 seconds, just steamed into Jesus and flattened him for no reason. And
yeah, go on. I'll
Stay finish, and then you can come in.
And I remember
on
saying, if
point.
he'd have been playing for the entire game, we might have got tore to pieces because of that sort of style of defending. And then we've seen it against Germany. You've seen the guy that's doing the Jamie Carragher thing in front of his telly going, look at this. And he's right. Like, I coach at level 13. I would call my lads out on rushing out of their position from centre-half like that. Centre-halves don't move. Centre-halves stay in position. Someone will say midfield should have covered. Yeah, it should. But centre-half still stays in position. You don't move your centre-halves out of position. That is the last line of defence. They do not move out of position. They do not get sucked in. The signs of a bad defender is getting sucked in. And like the guy pointed out in his video, it's a good video. He was never getting the first ball. He's not seeing the guy running on beyond him, knowing that he's going to drive into that space. He's making the defence weaker. And then he does things like that and points fingers. If he'd have gone, my bad. Or if he comes out in an interview and goes, do you know what? This was a mistake and that was a mistake and I've got to work on those sorts of things. But he doesn't. He comes out and goes, well, the manager keeps picking me. That is a lack of accountability. And when I see, he made mistakes against Italy. He made mistakes against Germany. And the two people I think are to blame for this sort of, the fact it's in the news, the fact we're even talking about it now, is Harry Maguire and Gareth Southgate. Gareth Southgate selecting him when he's not even getting selected for United, and he's got Serie A winning players. He's got Tomori, he's got Smalling, he's got players that are winning things and performing well for their clubs that don't get a look in. He continues to pick him, and almost in spite of his form, Southgate came out and was like, I trust him. I know what he can do. You're just going to have to get used to me playing him. Which is counter to everything Gareth Southgate said when he took this job on. So the reason Harry Maguire is news is because Gareth Southgate keeps picking him, and then he comes out and defends that selection of him in spite of... He might as well have come out and gone, he was shit, yeah. Because that's the way he defended him. Reading between the lines, that's what he was saying. Yeah, he had a bad game, but I'm going to keep picking him. So the reason it's news, the reason people are talking about him, and the reason people are frustrated is because you've got a manager selecting a player that's not in form, that's not performing, has literally just walked off a pitch where he was at fault for arguably 2 of the goals and just gone, well, why don't you lot fuck off, I'm picking him anyway. So people have got every single right to criticise both Gareth Southgate's selection of him and question it, and then criticise Harry Maguire's performances. Now, I don't agree when it starts taking on the personal sort of stuff, and some people have accused me of that. I only ever talk about performance. And I didn't really even want to do this today because it does feel like it's another video on Harry Maguire.
It's relevant, though. The reason we're doing this today is it'd be remiss to ignore it. And there's also a part of having this discussion. If this was just you with one side of the opinion, I'd be with you on that. But I want to bring in Joe as well. Joe, Steve's made some points there. You might agree with some, you might not. Where are you coming from? Because on the channel in particular, you've got this sort of reputation of defending Harry Maguire quite a lot. You've sort of stuck up for him when things haven't been going great, and obviously praised him when they have been going great. Not blindly. I think there's times when you've criticised him, but you have more or less stuck up for him, throughout his time at Manchester United. It does feel now, though, with the stuff that Steve's mentioned going on for England, with the stuff that's been going on for Manchester United, with the other players that have come in for Manchester United, in minors in particular, that this is as bad as it's been for Maguire, both for England and for Manchester United.
Yeah, but if the question is it time to lay off Maguire or get behind him?
Yeah.
My answer to that would be, why not?
Yeah.
Why would we not get behind him? He's not starting for Man United. So as a United fan, I don't give a shit whether Southgate picks him week in, week out.
Can I just jump in on there? I'm not saying let's hammer him. And
No,
I'm
I know
saying
you're not,
let's
and
take
you've
him
not-
on. I just want to put it out there because
that's
you know what
fine.
the internet's like.
Yeah.
I'm not saying, no, Joe,
Let's
we
pile
should
on.
hammer him.
No.
For me, it's irrelevant because he shouldn't be playing for United.
But he isn't.
I don't think he's going to either.
So my point would be, as a Manchester United fan, why would you not want to get behind a player that isn't playing? So we don't have to defend his performances. We don't have to say he's been good when he wasn't. We don't have to say, can't believe he's cost us that game, because he's not really playing. Also, the fact that Southgate is picking him is of no relevance or very little relevance to me as a Manchester United fan. And I think a couple of your points, Steve, that I would disagree with. I think the first one is the tackle on Jesus that you used as an example. That comes from Casemiro giving the ball away on the halfway line.
Still doesn't mean the centre-half has to get dragged into the halfway line.
No, but what it means is it was a 2-on-2 that he ended by making a tactical foul 35 yards from his own goal, which I think is maybe not the perfect way he could have dealt with it. A clean tackle would have been better. But I think that's the sort of thing that I think is attributed to Maguire as a mistake of his, when really it's him making a sort of maybe slightly ham-fisted recovery for Casemiro's mistake. He was the one that got dispossessed
If
on the
we'd have
halfway
seen
line.
a series of intelligent fouls from Harry Maguire in the past, I might believe you, but I don't think that was the case.
Maybe not, but the point I'm trying to make is I think that it's almost open season on Maguire now. England fans are booing him, despite the fact that he was one of England's best players in the second most successful period in England's history. United fans are booing him in pre-season.
I know you might scoff, but it's true.
That is true.
For that 2-year period, final of the Euros and semis of the World Cup, that's as good as it's been for England in my lifetime.
And it is, and I don't, factually, I don't think we can deny that. I think that he's not, like I said, he's not playing for United, so I don't think we need to worry about that. I think the problem is if everyone's crucifying him week in, week out, every single mistake, like, I'll use Casemiro as an example because he's a player that is cool, that people like, that is a new talent, that has won everything, that has got so much expectation that people are almost overlooking the fact that he's been kept out of the team by Scott McTominay at the moment.
I don't think
on
people are
merit.
overlooking that.
They're not overlooking it, but no one's saying Casemiro's awful. Obviously, he's won more. He's not been here as long. I'm not saying that
Casemiro's literally been here 3 weeks.
Exactly. I'm not saying they're the same player, but what I'm trying to say is that it's the right thing to do to back Casemiro and say, I want him to turn this around. Not turn it around, but get into his best form and play for Man United. But when it comes to Maguire, we've decided that the right thing to do is try and bury him, get rid of him, he's awful, when actually he's not even starting. So what I would like is when he does come in, plays in the League Cup, plays in the Europa League, which you talk about accountability, he said, I'm working hard on the training pitch to make sure I'm ready when my opportunity comes. That's all I can do to try and help the team. I think him saying I'm working hard on the training pitch is maybe not going as far as you would like of here's the mistakes I've made and here's how I'm trying to fix it. But he's not saying I'm ace, why aren't I getting picked? He's saying I'm working hard for when I do get picked.
If he kind of is saying that. When people are criticising his selection, he's like, 3 managers have picked me.
But that portion of that quote is him saying, "I'm working hard on the training pitch to make sure I'm ready when my opportunity comes. That's all I can try and do to help the team." I think that's a fair thing to say. So I think why not get behind him? Because when his opportunity does come, which it will, we want him to be in the best headspace, in the best opportunity to actually help Manchester United, because he is going to play sometimes.
On the Casemiro comparison, the reason why Casemiro is going to get a lot more time, apart from being new, is that we have seen Casemiro perform in a team that plays this sort of dominating and aggressive style of football. We have never seen Harry Maguire dominate in a team that wants to dominate the ball and play high-line football. And I think that's where the realisation comes. What we've seen of him in a Manchester United shirt this year has been 3 out of 10. He's been costing mistakes, he's been costing games, and when he's been replaced, his replacement has took it to 8 and 9s out of 10.
I agree.
And for that reason alone, people have gone, this guy, again, the two things that I mentioned on the debate we did last week, not his fault that he's the captain, not his fault that he cost 80 million, but both of those are factual things around him and him as a player. People are looking at him going, how did he cost us 80 million? How is he our captain? Look at what's replaced him almost in both aspects of that. And I think that's what, again, not saying don't get behind him, more saying, I think people are saying I'm done with him because we don't see anything in his history that says he's going to be capable of turning it around and playing that style of play. Physically, he looks flat-footed, he looks heavy, and he doesn't look quick, which is the opposite things that you're getting out of Martinez. And I think when you look at, what Casemiro's won 5 Champions League. Harry Maguire's had 5 relegations.
I don't think they're the same player. Casemiro is a much better player than Harry Maguire.
I know you're not getting into that, and I know what I'm trying to say is,
I think it's better to back Manchester United players when they're going through a difficult time, regardless of who they are.
We'll always back players, and there's no denying that. We've all done that. Do you not feel with Maguire, or how close you feel Maguire is to sort of turning this around? Do you think he can still turn around? Because we saw, and I know not everyone is is guilty of this, but if guilty is the right word, Phil Jones went 2 years of being completely almost useless for Manchester United. Either didn't play or when he did play, didn't play well. Has a good game against Wolves and everyone was getting behind him.
He didn't have a good game though.
All right.
Can I finish?
Yeah.
He had a good game in comparison to what Harry had been putting in.
Yeah, right.
Which just showed.
Yeah, but my point is, after 2 years of pretty much nothingness, people were rallying behind Phil Jones after a 45-minute spell against Wolves. Because I thought the first half he was decent, second half he was okay. Can Maguire not just turn this around with a good game? If Maguire did start in the derby, I know he probably won't, but let's say Varane's injured or whatever, and played well, would that not all be forgiven? Are we not like that fickle as fans? Yeah,
I'm not going to sit here and go, if he has a good game, I'm not going to acknowledge a good game.
No.
But I think if we're like, is he capable of the odd good game? Yeah. But is he capable of becoming a starter for Manchester United again? Unless someone's had a severe injury, and then Lindelof's had a severe. I don't think so.
You think you've pretty much.
I think if United,
I know you've done a lot of this on your own channel as well.
If United want to play a high line and they want to play front foot football, I don't think he can move the ball as well as other players. And I know people are going to pull some stats out on me, but it doesn't matter. Like, you watch what he's like on the pitch, he takes too long. He isn't aware of what's going on around him, so he waits to receive the ball and then goes, right, who should I pass it to? Rather than wait to get the ball and going, I'm giving it Joe. Like, those things really matter at the top level. Not knowing where you're going to pass the ball before you get it is not acceptable. I don't see a way that he comes in over the centre-halves that we've got, 1, 2 or 3. He is, for me, at best 4th. And I think if we got some experience into the likes of Bernard and Mengi, I think that they could be more suited to playing the higher line that we want to play.
How much do you think he suffers, Joe, from... Steve mentioned earlier about Southgate coming out and defending him.
Yeah.
Southgate saying these things where people are going, really? Luke Shaw saying, words to the effects of he's been the sort of the most criticised, or you've not seen any England player suffer the amount of abuse and criticism that Harry Maguire has suffered, which for me is a quite frankly ridiculous statement, if I'm being brutally honest.
Gareth Southgate had more criticism after his penalty miss.
Hello, Saka, Sancho, Rashford. Do we really want to go down this route?
David Beckham?
Yeah. I mean, I'm
not sure Luke Shaw saw Beckham or Southgate. He's only 25.
But, okay, Luke Shaw 26. Saw what happened after the Euros and saw some of the horrific abuse. And, I don't like comparing criticism, but it crossed the line massively. Yeah. How much of it is sort of a bit of a backlash because of things that, as Steve alluded to, he's not all Maguire's fault. It's not Maguire's fault if Luke Shaw says silly things or Gareth Southgate says silly things.
No, and I think that at the minute it's almost like Maguire. It's very fashionable to hate on Gareth Southgate.
Yeah.
And that's not because that's not to say that he's not done things you can criticise, or he's done nothing to not to say he hasn't done anything you can criticise, because I think he has. He's made plenty of mistakes, and I don't think he's a great manager. But almost like Maguire, you can sort of say whatever you want about Southgate, and most people will go, yeah, that's right. He's just shit. He's awful. And almost now you've got a similar thing happened with Ole and Maguire, and where this kind of all started is Ole got to the point where you could say anything you want about him, pundits could say anything they wanted about him, and it was open season. No matter what you say, it's probably true because he's shit. Whereas, and then you've got Ole coming out and backing Maguire. Well, now you've got two people who couldn't be worse backing each other. It almost like multiplies the ability to destroy Maguire. The same with Southgate.
England, and the thing with Maguire, the media aren't criticising him, either the player or the manager. It's social media.
But the media are criticising him as well. There's an article written last night on the full-time whistle that said Southgate's backing of Maguire was a mistake, or Southgate putting his reputation.
I think the media's turning. I do feel like the media. I think there is. I've seen a few people saying,
because in how shit Southgate's been, he has almost got universal sort of backing from everyone.
But just one more further point.
I just want to ask you one more thing before we wrap up.
Sorry, because just on the point about him coming out and defending that article that was written about him, that was still kind of, I think we'll get a bit more clarity on that this week, hopefully. The ESPN article that quoted a source close to Maguire, like you said, it's now a meme that everything's David De Gea's fault, because that's what this source that is supposedly close to Harry Maguire supposedly said. But he did address that without being direct. He did say, I think if people make up a story about me, I'm Man United captain, it's going to be big news. So he's alluding to the fact that some recent stories about him have been made up, without saying, naming journalists or naming publications. I think he is doing some of the things that people want him to do, but what he tends to sort of add into his interviews, which I think is probably stupid, is always one point, like you say, about, well, I keep getting picked, so I can't be that bad. I played in the Euros and I got team of the tournament. If he just, because he does say the things people want to hear, but he supplements that with things that make him look a knobhead.
Part of me does feel like, though, I need to see a bit more confidence from him in these interviews. I don't just want to see my captain going, I know I'm just rubbish, mate. I don't know what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
I want to see a bit of him like, listen, I've got confidence in my own ability. I just think that he needs to get that balance right. I asked Steve, and he made his feelings clear. Do you see a way forward for Harry Maguire? Because, the style of football has changed. There's obviously issues there. I still feel that Raphael Varane is going to get injured at some point, and we're going to have to turn to either Maguire or Lindelof, and it may well be Maguire. Can you see a happy ending for this?
I don't know what a happy ending would be, because he's the United captain and he's not our best centre-back, let alone our best player. So that's always going to be a tricky thing, unless he gets stripped of it, and then what does that do to his confidence in the first place? But I don't really see how he becomes a starting centre-back consistently for United with the current players we've got, because we've never seen a centre-back partnership as functional and as excellent as Varane and Martinez with Maguire in the team. So I don't think he should start for United, which is why I think it's even more important that we back him, because it's not like if Ten Hag was picking him week in, week out, like Southgate is, you could say, what are you doing? Why isn't Martinez playing? It's better without him. But he's not.
Yeah.
It's almost like we've got a player that is in the reserves for United or on the bench for United, and we're still criticising him for being shit when he's not really playing. Yeah. He's playing in the Europa League group stage matches, which half the time people pretend that they don't care about anyway. And yet when he's, playing in those games, that's all that matters, because now he's shit. Like, I just think he plays for United.
He's not playing the Ammonia games, but that's about then.
Yeah, well, he will do. But he plays for United. He's a United player, so I want to back him. He doesn't start, so he's not taking a first-team place off a player that is better than him. Why would we not want the best for him? Because when he does play, which he will, because Varane will get injured, Martinez needs a rest, I want the best possible Harry Maguire to be playing in those games, and I don't think we're going to get that by constantly criticising him.
You've heard the arguments. Get involved in the comments in the chat. Let us know what you think about Harry Maguire. Does this have a happy ending? Can he still play for Manchester United in this system under Erik ten Hag? Or is this the beginning of the end? Make sure you're following Steve. Check out his channel as well, where he has spoken extensively about Harry Maguire. You know where to find Joe as well, over on the Sloppy Joe's podcast and on this channel, of course. So make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.